It hurt more than you expected when they left, not because you were weak, not because you depended on them for your value, but because you genuinely cared. You invested your time, your energy, your patience, and your heart. You showed up when others disappeared. You carried burdens that few people ever noticed. You gave encouragement while fighting your own silent battles. You remained loyal when it would have been easier to walk away. Then one day, the people you thought would remain beside you were gone. Some left quietly, some left suddenly, some drifted away without explanation, others changed when life became difficult. The absence they created felt like a wound that would not heal. For a long time, you may have looked back trying to understand what happened. You replayed conversations. You questioned your decisions. You wondered if you could have done more, said more, fixed more, or become more. Yet despite all that reflection, the answers never fully arrived. What remained was a deep ache and a growing sense of loneliness. But there is something important you need to hear today. Not every departure is a punishment. Not every ending is a loss. Not every empty space is evidence that something has gone wrong. Sometimes what feels like subtraction is actually preparation. Sometimes what feels like rejection is making room for redirection. Sometimes God removes what can no longer travel where He is leading you. The hardest part is that this process rarely feels hopeful when you are living through it. It feels painful. It feels confusing. It feels unfair. Yet many of the greatest transformations in life begin with an unexpected separation. The person you are becoming cannot always remain surrounded by the same influences, the same limitations, the same expectations, and the same relationships that belonged to an earlier season. Growth often requires space. Healing often requires distance. Clarity often arrives after distractions have disappeared. There are people listening right now who spent years trying to keep everyone together. You carried friendships long after they became one-sided. You maintained connections that drained more than they supported. You stayed available to people who were rarely available for you. You kept giving chance after chance because your heart naturally looked for the best in others. Your kindness cost you more than most people will ever understand. Yet even after all that effort, some relationships still faded. Some people still walked away. Some bonds still broke apart. The pain of that experience can leave deep scars. It can create the feeling that you were not enough. It can make you question your worth. It can make you wonder why your loyalty was not returned. But your value has never been determined by who stayed or who left. Your worth has never depended on someone else's ability to recognize it. The fact that another person could not see your value does not mean your value was absent. A diamond remains valuable even when it is buried beneath dirt. A seed remains full of life even when hidden beneath the ground. In the same way, there is something deeply valuable within you even if others failed to recognize it. God sees what people overlook. God sees the sacrifices that went unnoticed. God sees the tears that nobody else noticed. God sees the moments when you chose kindness despite disappointment. He sees the nights when you carried heavy burdens in silence. He sees the courage it took to keep moving forward when your heart was exhausted. Nothing about your struggle has been invisible to Him. One of the most difficult truths to accept is that some people were only meant to be part of a chapter, not the entire story. That realization can feel heartbreaking because we naturally want permanence. We want certainty. We want people to remain exactly as they are. Yet life unfolds in seasons. Some individuals enter our lives to teach lessons. Some arrive to provide encouragement during a specific period. Some help us discover strengths we never knew existed. Others reveal wounds that still need healing. When their role is complete, their departure creates space for the next stage of growth. This does not mean they were bad people. It does not mean the memories were meaningless. It simply means the season changed. The problem is that many people spend years mourning a closed door while standing directly in front of an open one. They focus so much on who left that they cannot see what is arriving. They become so attached to what was that they miss what could be. The pain becomes familiar. The disappointment becomes comfortable. The loss becomes part of their identity. Yet your story is bigger than your losses. Your future is larger than your disappointments. The chapters that hurt you are not the final chapters. Not every battle you fought was in vain. Not every tear was wasted. Not every delay was meaningless. Some of the very experiences that nearly broke you are developing a strength within you that could not have been formed any other way. The seasons that tested you were also shaping who you were becoming. Think about how much stronger you are today than you were years ago. Think about the wisdom that emerged from difficult experiences. Think about the compassion that grew from your pain. Think about the resilience that developed each time you chose to stand back up. Some of your greatest victories happened in silence when nobody was watching. There were moments when simply getting through the day required tremendous courage. There were days when your heart felt heavy, but you kept going anyway. There were seasons when you felt forgotten, but refused to surrender your faith completely. The fact that you are still standing says more about your strength than you realize. Many people see your survival and assume the journey was easy. They see your smile, but not the struggle behind it. They see your progress, but not the pain that produced it. They see the result without understanding the process. Yet God understands every part of that process. He understands the weight you carried. He understands the loneliness you endured. He understands the disappointments you never fully explained to anyone else. He knows exactly how far you have come. There is a reason many breakthroughs begin after seasons of separation. When certain voices leave your life, you begin hearing your own voice more clearly. When constant distractions disappear, you gain greater awareness of what truly matters. When unhealthy attachments break, you discover strength you did not know you possessed. What initially felt like abandonment can become an invitation to grow. What felt like isolation can become a season of preparation. What felt like loss can become the foundation for something better. This does not happen overnight. Healing rarely follows a schedule. Growth rarely moves in a straight line. There will still be days when old memories return. There will still be moments when certain absences feel painful. There will still be times when you wonder why things happened the way they did. But gradually something changes. You begin noticing that you are becoming stronger. You begin recognizing patterns you could not see before. You begin understanding that some people could not accompany you because they were connected to a version of you that no longer exists. You are not the same person you were when the journey began. The challenges changed you. The disappointments matured you. The struggles refined you. The pain deepened your compassion. The waiting strengthened your patience. The setbacks revealed your resilience. There is a strength within you that kept moving forward even on your darkest days. That strength did not appear by accident. It was developed through every obstacle, every disappointment, and every season when you had to trust without seeing immediate results. God has not forgotten you. The silence was not abandonment. The delays were not proof that you were overlooked. The closed doors were not evidence that your future had disappeared. Sometimes God removes what no longer fits so that something better can enter. Sometimes He clears the path before revealing where it leads. Sometimes He creates room before introducing the next level of growth, peace, purpose, and fulfillment. Your story has value even if it did not unfold the way you expected. Your journey matters even when it feels slow. Your faith matters even when answers take time. The people who left do not determine your destiny. The disappointments you experienced do not define your future. The loneliness you felt does not cancel the purpose within you. There is still hope ahead. There is still healing ahead. There is still growth ahead. There is still meaning ahead. There is still a future that has not yet revealed itself. One day you may look back and realize that what felt like God taking something away was actually God making room for something greater. You may discover that the empty spaces were not empty at all. They were preparation. They were protection. They were opportunities to become the person you needed to become before the next chapter could begin. If this message strengthened your heart and reminded you that your journey still has purpose, subscribe to the channel and continue walking with a community that believes healing, faith, growth, and hope are worth holding on to. You do not have to carry every burden alone, and there may be encouragement waiting for you in the messages still ahead. There comes a moment in every difficult season when the pain of what was lost begins to compete with the possibility of what might still be gained. At first, that possibility feels distant. It feels fragile. It feels almost impossible to believe. When people leave, When opportunities disappear, when plans fall apart, the mind naturally focuses on what is missing. It notices the empty chair, the unanswered message, the friendship that changed, the relationship that ended, the dream that did not unfold the way it was supposed to. Loss has a way of demanding attention. It speaks loudly. It reminds you of what could have been. It points toward every disappointment and every unanswered prayer. Yet, while loss is speaking, something else is quietly developing beneath the surface. Strength is growing. Wisdom is forming. Perspective is expanding. Character is being refined. The person who enters a painful season is rarely the same person who emerges from it. Growth often happens so gradually that you do not notice it while it is occurring. Day by day, challenge by challenge, disappointment by disappointment, something inside you becomes stronger. You learn what truly matters. You learn where your foundation rests. You learn which voices deserve influence in your life and which ones do not. You learn that your worth cannot depend entirely upon the approval of others, because approval can disappear overnight. You learn that your identity must be anchored somewhere deeper. Many people spend years chasing acceptance from those who are never capable of giving it. They exhaust themselves trying to prove their value. They constantly adjust their personality, silence their needs, hide their pain, and minimize their gifts in order to fit into places they were never meant to remain. The tragedy is not simply that they are rejected. The tragedy is that they slowly begin rejecting themselves in the process. They start believing that being less of who they are will make them easier to love. They begin shrinking their dreams, lowering their expectations, and questioning their purpose. Yet the very qualities that make you different may be the qualities that make you valuable. The compassion that others overlooked, the integrity that others took for granted, the loyalty that others failed to appreciate, the patience that went unnoticed, the faith that survived difficult seasons. These qualities matter. They matter more than temporary recognition. They matter more than public applause. They matter more than the opinions of people who never fully understood your journey. There are individuals listening today who have spent years feeling unseen. You showed kindness and received indifference. You offered support and received distance. You extended grace and received criticism. There were moments when you wondered if your efforts mattered at all. There were seasons when you felt invisible. Yet some of the most meaningful things you have ever done were never meant to receive public recognition. Some of your greatest acts of courage happened privately. Some of your greatest victories happened when nobody was there to celebrate them. Some of your greatest moments of faith occurred when there was no audience at all. God saw those moments. He saw every act of perseverance. He saw every tear you wiped away before anyone else noticed. He saw every time you chose hope instead of bitterness. He saw every moment you resisted the temptation to give up. The world often measures success by visibility. Heaven often measures it by faithfulness. The quiet endurance that carried you through difficult years has value. The strength that kept you moving forward has value. The goodness you maintained despite disappointment has value. Nothing that shaped your character was wasted. Nothing that strengthened your heart was meaningless. Sometimes people assume that being strong means never feeling hurt. In reality, true strength often means continuing despite hurt. It means carrying disappointment without allowing it to become your identity. It means experiencing rejection without allowing it to define your worth. It means facing loneliness without surrendering your hope. The strongest people are not those who never struggle. The strongest people are often those who keep moving while carrying burdens others cannot see. Perhaps that describes your journey. Perhaps there were days when nobody knew how much effort it took simply to remain positive. Perhaps there were nights when exhaustion settled deep into your soul. Perhaps there were moments when you smiled for others while privately fighting discouragement. If so, your perseverance matters more than you realize. Every difficult season leaves behind a choice. You can become hardened or you can become wiser. You can become bitter or you can become compassionate. You can allow pain to close your heart or you can allow healing to expand it. The choice is not always easy. In fact, it is often one of the hardest choices a person can make. Bitterness sometimes feels justified. Resentment sometimes feels understandable. After enough disappointment, protecting your heart can seem safer than opening it again. Yet healing begins when you realize that your future should not be controlled by the wounds of your past. The people who left may have influenced part of your story, but they do not own the chapters that remain unwritten. There is still life ahead of you. There are still meaningful experiences ahead of you. There are still opportunities for connection, growth, purpose, and joy. One of the enemy's favorite strategies is convincing people that their best days are behind them. He wants them to believe that the losses define the future. He wants them to see every disappointment as permanent. He wants them to assume that because something ended, nothing meaningful can begin again. But your life is not over because one chapter ended. Your purpose is not finished because one door closed. Your future is not limited by yesterday's setbacks. God specializes in bringing hope into places that appear empty. He specializes in creating new beginnings where people only see endings. He specializes in redeeming seasons that seemed lost. Throughout your journey, there have likely been moments when you thought everything was falling apart. Looking back now, some of those moments may have been turning points. What appeared to be a setback redirected you towards something better. What seemed like failure taught lessons that later became invaluable. What felt like loss revealed strengths that would have remained hidden otherwise. At the time, none of it made sense. During the struggle, clarity was absent. During the waiting, answers were delayed. Yet eventually, perspective arrived. Sometimes, understanding follows obedience. Sometimes clarity follows endurance. Sometimes the meaning of a season only becomes visible after it has passed. That is why faith matters so much during uncertain times. Faith is not pretending pain does not exist. Faith is believing that pain is not the entire story. Faith is not denying disappointment. Faith is believing that disappointment does not have the final word. Faith is not ignoring reality. Faith is trusting that God's perspective reaches beyond what you can currently see. The truth is that many of the people who left could not accompany you into the next season because they were connected to an earlier version of your life. Their departure created room for growth. Their absence created space for healing. Their distance encouraged independence. Their leaving forced you to discover strengths that remained dormant while they were present. This realization does not erase the hurt. It does not suddenly make every loss easy to accept, but it can transform the way you interpret your journey. Instead of viewing every departure as evidence that something valuable was taken from you, you begin considering the possibility that something valuable was being prepared within you. The waiting season develops patience. The lonely season develops self-awareness. The difficult season develops resilience. The uncertain season develops trust. None of these lessons are easy, but all of them are powerful. You are worth far more than the moments that tried to make you feel small. You are worth far more than the rejection that wounded your confidence. You are worth far more than the criticism that caused you to doubt yourself. You are worth far more than the disappointments that made you question your future. Your value was never dependent upon being fully understood by everyone around you. Some people failed to see what God placed within you. That does not diminish what He placed there. Some people underestimated your strength. That does not reduce your strength. Some people walked away before witnessing your growth. That does not stop your growth from happening. The story is still unfolding. The journey is still moving forward. The future still contains possibilities you cannot yet see. There are blessings that require preparation. There are opportunities that require maturity. There are assignments that require growth. God often develops the person before revealing the next purpose. He strengthens the foundation before building higher levels. He prepares the heart before opening new doors. Looking back, you may eventually realize that some of the hardest seasons were actually preparation seasons. They were not designed to destroy you. They were designed to develop you. They were not evidence that God forgot you. They were evidence that He was still working, even when you could not see the progress. If this message has encouraged you to trust that your story is still unfolding and that God is still working within your journey, subscribe to the channel and continue receiving messages that strengthen faith, bring comfort, and remind you that your life has meaning. Sometimes encouragement arrives exactly when it is needed, and you deserve reminders that hope is still alive. One day you will look back on this season with different eyes. The pain may not completely disappear from your memory, but the meaning behind it will become clearer. What once felt like a devastating loss may reveal itself as a necessary transition. What once felt like abandonment may reveal itself as protection. What once felt like a door closing forever may reveal itself as the beginning of a path you never would have discovered otherwise. Right now, you may still be carrying questions. You may still be wondering why certain people left when you needed them most. You may still be trying to understand why some prayers seemed unanswered. You may still be wrestling with disappointments that never received an explanation. That struggle is deeply human. Every person who has walked through a difficult season understands the desire for answers. We want clarity. We want reasons. We want to know why certain things happened the way they did. Yet life does not always provide immediate explanations. Sometimes the lesson arrives long after the event. Sometimes the understanding comes years later. Sometimes the purpose behind a painful season only becomes visible after enough time has passed to reveal the bigger picture. Until then, faith becomes the bridge between what you know and what you cannot yet understand. Faith allows you to continue moving even when certainty is unavailable. Faith allows you to believe that God is still present even when circumstances feel confusing. Faith allows you to trust that your story is not finished. There are people listening right now who have survived far more than anyone realizes. You carried responsibilities that exhausted you. You endured disappointments that changed you. You faced seasons of loneliness that seemed endless. You navigated challenges that nobody prepared you for. There were times when you felt as though you were holding everything together by sheer determination. There were moments when you wanted to quit, but continued anyway. There were days when hope felt fragile, yet something inside you refused to stop believing completely. That persistence matters. That quiet courage matters. That endurance matters. Many people never see the full story behind another person's strength. They see confidence without seeing the battles that produced it. They see resilience without seeing the pain that shaped it. They see wisdom without seeing the mistakes and lessons that created it. What they often miss is that strength is usually born through struggle. The strongest trees are not formed during perfect weather. They grow deep roots because they endure storms. In the same way, your character has been shaped through experiences that challenged you. The obstacles you faced forced you to develop patience. The heartbreaks taught compassion. The disappointments revealed resilience. The waiting seasons strengthened faith. None of these lessons were easy. None of them arrived without discomfort. Yet each one added depth to who you are becoming. One of the greatest gifts that difficult seasons can provide is perspective. They teach you the difference between what is temporary and what is lasting. They reveal which relationships are genuine. They expose what truly matters. They remind you that external success alone cannot satisfy the deepest needs of the heart. They show you that peace, purpose, faith, integrity, and meaningful connection are treasures that cannot be measured by appearances. Many of the people who left your life were connected to a season, not your destiny. They were connected to a chapter, not the entire book. At the time, their departure may have felt devastating. You may have believed that their absence would leave a permanent void. Yet here you are. You survived. You continued. You learned. You grew. The fact that you are still standing is proof that God's work in your life did not end when those people walked away. In many cases, it continued because they walked away. The space they left behind became room for growth. The silence they created became an opportunity for reflection. The independence their departure required became a source of strength. Sometimes, God removes support systems that have become substitutes for trust in Him. Sometimes He allows certain attachments to loosen because He knows they cannot carry you into the future He is preparing. This does not mean He enjoys your pain. It means He sees beyond the immediate moment. He sees the person you are becoming. He sees the potential that still exists within you. He sees the purpose that remains alive even after disappointment. The beautiful truth is that your story is not defined by who left. Your story is defined by who you became after they left. It is defined by the faith that survived. It is defined by the hope that remained. It is defined by the strength that emerged. It is defined by the compassion you continued to show despite being hurt. It is defined by the decision to keep moving forward. That decision is more powerful than you realize. Every step forward is evidence that pain did not defeat you. Every act of kindness is evidence that bitterness did not win. Every moment of faith is evidence that discouragement did not have the final word. Every day you continue growing is evidence that your future remains open. Some people spend years waiting for external validation before they allow themselves to believe in their own value. They wait for applause. They wait for recognition. They wait for someone else to confirm what God has already placed inside them. Yet your value existed before anyone acknowledged it. Your purpose existed before anyone understood it. Your worth existed before anyone appreciated it. You do not become valuable when someone recognizes your value. You were already valuable. The challenge is learning to see yourself through a healthier lens, learning to recognize that your life carries meaning, even when circumstances are difficult. Learning to understand that setbacks are events, not identities. Learning to remember that difficult chapters do not erase the goodness that remains within you. God has not forgotten your sacrifices. He has not forgotten the prayers you whispered through tears. He has not forgotten the faith you maintained during uncertainty. He has not forgotten the kindness you showed when your own heart was hurting. He has not forgotten the burdens you carried in silence. Every act of perseverance matters. Every step of growth matters. Every lesson learned matters. Sometimes people imagine that purpose arrives in a single dramatic moment. More often, purpose unfolds gradually. It reveals itself through daily choices. It develops through ordinary acts of faithfulness. It grows through persistence. It strengthens through challenges. It matures through experience. The very season that feels slow may be preparing you for something meaningful. The very struggle that feels frustrating may be developing qualities that will serve you for years to come. The very waiting period that feels unnecessary may be protecting you from opportunities that arrive before you are ready. Trust does not mean understanding everything. Trust means believing that God can work through things you do not yet understand. It means believing that closed doors are not always punishments. It means believing that delays are not always denials. It means believing that departures are not always losses. It means believing that your future contains more than your current perspective can see. There is still beauty ahead. There is still growth ahead. There is still healing ahead. There is still purpose ahead. There is still joy ahead. There are still relationships ahead that will appreciate the loyalty, compassion, wisdom, and strength you have developed. There are still opportunities ahead that align with the person you have become. There are still moments ahead that will remind you why you endured. Your journey matters. Your faith matters. Your perseverance matters. The tears mattered. The lessons mattered. The waiting mattered. The growth mattered. None of it was wasted. Even the seasons that felt empty were accomplishing something beneath the surface. Even the chapters that seemed painful were contributing to the story God is still writing. One day, you may realize that the people who left created room for something greater than you could have imagined at the time. Not necessarily something easier, but something deeper. Not necessarily something more comfortable, but something more meaningful. Not necessarily a life without challenges, but a life with greater wisdom, greater peace, greater strength, and greater purpose. God did not remove them to leave you empty. He removed them to create space. Space for healing, space for growth, space for clarity, space for new beginnings, space for the next level of the journey He has been preparing all along. If this message reminded you that your struggles have not been meaningless and that your future still holds purpose, subscribe to the channel and continue joining a community centered on faith, encouragement, healing, and personal growth. May these messages continue reminding you that you are seen, valued, and never forgotten, even during the seasons when the path ahead feels uncertain.